Welcome to more World of Warplanes content from the Noble Q, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the Tier 10 Tech Tree American multirole fighter, the F-84F Thunderstreak. Hello there, and here we are on the tarmac outside my hangar looking at the F-84F Thunderstreak. A United States Air Force aircraft, entered service in 1954, eventually was retired from service in 1964, but not before a lot of problems. Indeed, the aircraft, almost as soon as it entered service, entered its phase out and was retired in 1958, happened to be reactivated in 1961 around the time of the Berlin Wall crisis. And it looks at first glance like it's simply a swept-wing version of the preceding aircraft in this game, the F-84B Thunderjet. Rather more to it than that. The fuselage had to be redesigned to accommodate a different engine. A Hawker Siddeley Sapphire built under license in the States as the Wright J65. That caused a whole load of problems as well. So a bit of a troubled history to this aircraft. In World of Warplanes, it's a multirole, and we're soon going to find out that it carries a lot of ordnance and it has 50 cal machine guns. So what we're going to do next is look at the spreadsheet containing the statistics of this aircraft and all the other Tier 10 multiroles. So here's the spreadsheet showing all of the Tier 10 multiroles, all 6 of them. The F-84F Thunderstreak is in columns C and D. I've been explaining how this spreadsheet works at this point in the video. However, we're not going to do that anymore. I will be producing a separate video to which people can refer, explaining how this spreadsheet works. In the meantime, if you do need to find out, have a look at one of my earlier review videos, and specifically at the short section where I do go through how the spreadsheet works. The F-84F Thunderstreak is in column C as usual in one of these spreadsheets, and if we look immediately at the gun armament, we can see that the rating is 31 and the cumulative DPS is 576. Now I'm going to drop down into the worst in class figures straight away, and you can see that this is worst in class on both measures. And that's with the buff to the 50 cal machine guns, or 12.7mm as the game insists on listing them, but we all know them as 50 cals. Before that buff, the rating was 26 and the DPS was a meagre 480, so you can imagine how much this aircraft struggled, especially as the range of the weapons has been increased by 10% as well, so you had worse range to cope with as well. However, there is some good news. Auto angle, i.e. the amount you can be off target by and the game will correct for you so that you still hit your target, is a very healthy 4.5 degrees. If we just look at some of the other aircraft's weapons, you can see 2.2, 2.5, 3, 2.5, 2.5. This is a very healthy figure indeed. One of the higher ones that I've seen in the game. And the dispersion angle, which is how the bullets spread out as they leave the muzzle of the machine gun, is a pretty good 0.7. I say pretty good in terms of machine guns, so often 0.8. Cannons tend to have less dispersion. But it's sort of getting close to, say, the J7W3's figure there, so that's good news as well. And of course, you've got a very healthy overheat time of 20 seconds, whereas cannons 3, 4, 4, 4, and 6 seconds is much more usual. So the thing here you're seeing is that this isn't really the aircraft to take on other aircraft with a high hit point pool, but they're serviceable weapons, particularly against, say, light fighters, other multi-roles. Possibly even some of the lower hit point heavies such as the XF90 and the ME262. No rear gunner, and I mentioned that because there is actually one of the multi-roles with a rear gunner, the BVP 215.02. Played this one more as a heavy, though it's not really a typical multi-role. We come to ordnance, and here it's exactly about face. It's the best in class. Rating is 49, and what you have are 2 marvellous tiny tin rockets. See how I use those in the forthcoming battle. 9,000 cumulative damage, a resupply time which is really good, only 2 minutes, and 5,643 feet, so you can really fire at a long distance to make sure that you've got all 3 targets destroyed before you even necessarily start engaging the air defence aircraft potentially. And it's pretty much the same story with the 5-inch H5s. You've got 12 of them and 18,000 cumulative damage. Again, the resupply time of 120 seconds or just 2 minutes, and a range of 5,643 feet. There are other aircraft which have got pretty good ratings on ordnance. The Hunter has got very good ordnance, but you've got a pair of bombs, which isn't my preference. Some people prefer bombs, but you have to get close to your target to use those, pretty much. But also has the 32 Sura FL rockets, which are effective. So the Hunter is really good at ground attacking as well. Don't be misled by the figure for the BVP 215.02. Although it's 35, only these 4 rockets are suitable for attacking ground targets. The 56 rockets you can see here are really air-to-air rockets, and they're pretty weak against ground targets. You can use them, but they're not. That's not what they're ready for. And then we start going into the other aircraft. The Cutlass is only rated at 19, but don't mistake the effectiveness of these bombs. You can take it 4 gun emplacements pretty well with these 4 bombs, and the reload time is again just the 2 minutes. So they're usable. Not so much on the J7W3. This is more of a ground attacker killer with incidental capability to take out, say, a couple of gun emplacements. And the I-215, well, you're looking to snipe at long range and not usually looking to bomb targets anyway. So the Thunderstreak, I would say yes, definitely the best in class, both by rating and by my experience in terms of its ordnance. Survivability is somewhere in the middle for the multi-roles, but it has got excellent damage resistance and fire resistance figures. Airspeed, nothing to write home about. It's not really a pursuit aircraft, unlike, say, the Hunter or the Cutlass, which can be pressed into that role after going after heavies, particularly. That's not really what you want to be doing with the F-84 Thunderstreak, trying to hunt down a fast aircraft. It's decent enough, and I will just mention that the boost is 3rd best in class, boost maximum speed, so it can be pretty quick under boost when you need it. And indeed in the replay you'll see an instance of where I use boost to escape an attacking aircraft. Manoeuvrability, 2nd best in class. Not surprisingly, the J7W3 is more manoeuvrable, which in this game reflects the Japanese aircraft throughout all of the tiers. Almost all of them are highly manoeuvrable planes. However, if you were engaging one of these, you would go at its speed, fly away at speed, and then come back when it was doing something else. So easy enough to get away from a J7W3, even though it's more manoeuvrable. And the other multi-roles you can outmaneuver, and that's important. Because in this game, if you are in a contested sector, then preferentially you would probably want to try and pick off the enemy multi-roles using your greater manoeuvrability. And the altitude performance is sort of okay, and sort of not okay. The only one where there's a significant advantage is the J7W3. However, it's not particularly outclassed by any of the other multi-roles, with the sole exception of the more heavy fighter like BVP 215.02. If we just drop down into worst in class figures and see if we can glean anything from those. Well, we've already talked about the armament being worst in class. Ordnance, nothing to worry about there, of course, because it's simply best in class. And then, as we said, survivability somewhere in the middle, so some of the figures are red. Airspeed, the cruise speed actually did catch my eye just now. It's a little bit on the low side. Might push you towards using an uprated engine, although that's not my preference. And the maximum dive speed actually isn't that healthy either, so you're not going to really try and dive away from other multi-roles or indeed much else. You probably rely on your boost, and we'll have a look at the climb rate in a moment. Manoeuvrability, again, some of the figures. Maximum optimum speed, you degrade fairly quickly, but again, for most people, you're never going to be paying attention to your speed during a turn unless you're approaching stall, as opposed to going over the top of your range. And again, the altitude performance, as I said, it's sort of on the lower side, so that's reflected in these red figures, but it's not disastrous. And let's just have a look at that climb rate. It's actually 3rd best in class. Might climb away from, say, the BVP, the J7W3, you definitely would. And you'd have to watch it with the I-215 because that can snipe you at long range, but definitely climbing from that would be a good idea. Some of the other fighters you'd probably struggle to get away from. So it's probably more about horizontal speed as a means of escape, unless you know your aircraft and know you've got an advantage in terms of a climb rate. So where do those figures place this aircraft? Well, in terms of combating other aircraft, your ideal targets are perhaps light fighters that haven't detected you coming towards them. Other multi-roles, be a little bit careful with the J7W3. That's the one you can't outmaneuver, but the others you can. And targets of opportunity, possibly slower moving heavies, which are already damaged. but probably not, and certainly not from behind full health ground attackers or full health bombers. These are definitely not targets that you want to be going for with this aircraft. However, on the flip side, you do want to be trying to concentrate on taking out as many ground targets as you can with your very good range rockets and getting ahead when you're contesting a sector at distance before you actually have to engage other aircraft. And of course, one of the things this armament will do is take out air defence aircraft pretty satisfactorily. Okay, so I think that's enough about the statistics. Let's go and see how I've set this aircraft up. So my F-84F Thunderstreak is specialised, which means that I have all of the equipment and consumable slots available. However, let's have a quick look at what you would be missing when you first acquire this aircraft. And of the 5 equipment slots, 2 would be locked, 1 on the airframe and 1 on the outboard weapon. And of the consumables, the outboard weapon slot would be locked. So if we pop that back into specialist, and let's see what I've actually done. And on the cockpit, I think the obvious choice is the gun sight to improve the accuracy of what are already fairly accurate weapons. If we have a quick look at the other choices, I don't see the point in reinforcing the aircraft. You're never going to make it a tank. And the G-suit and navigational radio equipment for other types of aircraft, in my opinion, are not really appropriate for this one. When it comes to the airframe, my thinking here is I have improved the manoeuvrability a bit by using a lightweight wing frame. However, you're never going to get this up to fighter standards, so I don't see the point in going the whole hog and, for instance, mounting a lightweight power unit. And there's another reason for the high-speed gas turbine anyway, which we'll discuss in a moment. So, given that we're not too worried about losing a little bit of manoeuvrability, I've also put on some polished skin to try and improve the general speed of the aircraft. Now here we've got an advanced high-speed gas turbine, so there is the ultimate level and calibration to come. I just want to take a look over here, and you'll see that the boost speed is 589, and if you looked at the numbers section you might be saying, oh hang on, wasn't it 593 at base, and haven't you lost a little bit of speed? Even though you've put on the high-speed gas turbine. Well, yes, I have, and the reason being is because I've put on these strengthened hard points. Now, you may be saying to yourself, if you've already got a 2-minute reload, why put on the ultimate strengthened hard points and have the penalty on the speed? And that's a fair argument. You may very well therefore decide to put on something else, such as the aerodynamic pylons, and in fact improve the speed of the aircraft. However, of course, that will slow the reload speed. And I tend to opt for quicker reload speed so I can do more of what this aircraft is good at. And as you can see, the resupply time has collapsed from 120 seconds to a very, very usable 85 seconds. And for me, this is improving the strength of the aircraft, and usually that's what I go for as a rule of thumb. I will try to improve the aircraft's strengths and not try to mitigate its weaknesses. However, as I say, that comes with an adverse effect on cruise speed, which I'll be able to offset a bit with this high-speed gas turbine, and I've got it up to ultimate level and calibrated. When we come to consumables, because of the high survivability of the aircraft, let's have a quick look at the resistance to fire, still 60 there. Because I put on the high-speed gas turbine and not an uprated engine, which does have a penalty on fire resistance, I can mount the first aid kit here. Having said that, unless you're in front of them or they're highly damaged, you're probably not going to be going after aircraft with potent rear guns, and you might be able to put on an uprated engine if you prefer, although that's going to cost you even more if you've got the strengthened hard points in terms of your boost speed. You might put on a fire extinguisher instead. Pneumatic control assist for extra manoeuvrability in a tight spot, probably against another F-84F Thunderstreak for instance. Engine cooling for 10 seconds of extra boost on top of whatever you happen to have available, provided you have at least 1 second available. Universal ammunition and improved fragmentation, because I won't use gold for these slots. So well, that brings us on to pilot skills. And even though this isn't ever going to compete with some of the manoeuvrable fighters, I've still gone for the manoeuvrability skills here. So aerodynamics expert, which also improves speed of course as well if you have the right kit mounted, and aerobatics expert, and then the familiar Engine Guru 1 and Engine Guru 2. and I would probably work up through the skill points. At this moment I've used a spare skill point on Eagle-Eyed, mainly because I don't really feel the need to use it on one of the firefighting skills, but I will be using this point eventually probably to go on to Resilience, or given that I've lost a little bit of speed by mounting the strengthened hard points, maybe Engine Guru 2 would be the right choice next. Okay. So I think it's time to see how this aircraft performs in battle, and I will say at this point the battle was recorded a little while ago before I'd worked out how to record battles natively, so I'm afraid it's a World of Warplanes replay file, and in fact in the middle of that battle I do say that my recordings, native recordings of replays, were very jerky, a problem I've since overcome. So a bit of a throwback there, I apologise for that, but there won't be too many World of Warplanes replay files used in my videos from now on. And with that said, let's move on. The map for the forthcoming battle is Northern Bridgehead. It's the Cold Skies variant, and this is slightly unusual. It's a 4-sector map, with the sectors laid out in the shape of an inverted lowercase y, and at Tier 10, 4-sector maps often lend themselves to quick battles. What we have in the centre, so tactically important because it provides access to the other sectors, is a forward airstrip, but it's not a repair airbase. So you can spawn there, but that's it. Then on an axis about the forward airstrip are the 2 strategically important command centres, which of course call in bomber flights to help you take enemy sectors, and then the 4th sector is a simple garrison. And it tends to be on this map that the team that manages to hold on to its own command centre and forward airstrip for most of the battle has a huge advantage in taking the enemy command centre, and therefore will probably win. If we look at the order of battle, we can see that I'm top tier with my F-84F Thunderstreak, and I've got a specialised Swift with me. Interesting aircraft, the Swift. Quite a handful, but once it's specialised can be quite deadly. On the enemy side we have another multi-role, which is the F7U. That can be a handful as well with the guns, or at least I find it to be so. Other people seem to get on well with the 20mm on that. And then a manoeuvrable, hard-hitting MEP 1092. It is a tier 9, but it shouldn't be outclassed in this battle. So let's see how it all went. Well, the first order of business in this battle is to take our local command centre, and I'm going to support my bots by taking out at least a couple of gun emplacements if I can. The Tiny Tims are excellent for that, and then shoot down air defence aircraft. That will probably flip the base to us, and then it's time to move on. So the first Tiny Tim is away. And it's virtually guaranteed gun emplacement destruction if you use the Tiny Tims, although they are good if they're used together on, say, a secondary target. And now we're beginning to size up the air defence aircraft. And this is pretty mobile. Yeah, air defence aircraft don't tend to manoeuvre as violently as, say, a human player would in a tech tree plane or a premium plane. And we've got the command centre already. And at this point I can see an awful lot of white and red and not an awful lot of blue in the centre, so I'm quite cagey about going towards the middle. That's not unusual. I was thinking that I might need to go to the garrison rather than contest the centre of the map. As you can see, I'm skirting this sector, and then an isolated enemy aircraft comes out. And I can't resist the opportunity. And it turns out to be something I know I can outmaneuver easily. It's a BVP 215. It's got a rear gunner, and you don't want to get in front of it in case you get rocketed. It has got 800 hit points, but it's an easy kill for me, and that sucks me into the middle. As usual, the reticle is off target in World of Warplanes replays. Nothing I can do about that, I'm afraid. If you try and record the games natively, they're very jerky. And that's a couple of air defence aircraft down. I saw the gap suddenly open up in this base after shooting down the BVP 215, and now I'm chasing the LA 160. Hoping to destroy it because it can certainly outmaneuver me, and unfortunately it disengages from the ADA and goes for me. Now I'm hoping it will re-engage with the ADA here, but it doesn't, and that's very nearly a disaster. I shouldn't be turn fighting with this aircraft. Fortunately, it's probably straightened up just a little bit because of the air defence aircraft that was attacking it. That allows me to get a turn in and allows me to shoot it down. But that was a streaky engagement to win. I pinch the heavy off the BVP. Time to take a look at the scores. And as we can see, we've already got 6 aircraft. Only got a couple of ground targets so far though. And now, having taken the centre, as I said in the strategy and tactics, it provides us with the opportunity to attack the enemy command centre. I've got full ordnance back again, so it's going to be another couple of gun emplacements with the Tiny Tims, and then probably take out air defence aircraft. There's one down. There goes another one. There's nothing wrong with the other rockets, it's just that you need to fire 4 of them to do the same thing, which takes just a little bit longer, so I tend to use the Tiny Tims for that job. And now we're on the air defence aircraft. He flies very straight, and that allows us to flip the sector. That's 7 aircraft down, and 4 ground targets. I thought it was 3 for a second there, but that's actually 3 sectors captured. I head towards the garrison because that's the only sector the enemy possesses, and we take it as I approach it. It's typical Q disease that. I look at a sector and it flips, either to the enemy or to us. I'm looking around to see where the enemy is likely to strike next, and I can see that they're likely to take our command centre, so I want to head there, and indeed they have taken it. I begin to hightail it there. And see the F7U bot, another American multirole down the other line. Set that on fire. Decide to make sure of it, even though it's probably going to blow up. And it does. And at this point, I suddenly find myself engaged by the LA-160 again, and that's not welcome. And all I do, this time, I make the right decision. I do not try and turn fight with it. I engage my engine cooling, and I go like a bat out of hell to get away from the LA-160. And no interest in fighting it. I very nearly lost the first engagement with him. Not going to repeat that mistake. So we go round the mountain and we're heading towards the command centre. And we've got the Tiny Tims back, so you can probably guess what's coming up. A couple of gun emplacements. Go. And now we do use 4 of the other rockets. That takes out another gun emplacement, and that's 7 ground targets. And now we're after the air defence aircraft again. And they're being very compliant, but there's one on my tail. I'm slightly concerned here. Fortunately I managed to dodge, having killed the target that was in front of me. Nice bit of long range shooting here, and along with my teammates we flipped this sector, and now we've got supremacy. And that was my 10th aerial target, and those of you who know about this game will know that provided this turns into a win, and of course with air superiority it looks like it is going to be, this is going to be a Gabreski's medal. Right towards the centre looking for targets. The score is ticking away very quickly. That target, I'm deprived of that target by the ram there. Chase after the BVP 215. Whittling it down with these 50 cals. It has 800 hit points, that aircraft. But the game ends in 6 minutes and 18 seconds. That's a quick-fire Gabreski's medal. But it does show you that in the right game, this aircraft can be pretty potent. Let's examine the result of this quick-fire battle, and as it was so quick, it's not surprising that it's a 3 chevron battle or a grade 3 multirole fighter. It wasn't really time to get anything more than that. That grossed 115,147 credits, or silver if you prefer, of which about 38,000, just over, came from the premium account bonus. If we look in the message box, we can see there were no expenses, the aircraft wasn't shot down, so no repair costs, and as usual I was using prepaid consumables. Aircraft experience of 9,934, the base there you can see is 3,896, premium account bonus and some other bonuses coming from missions and liveries and the like. 496 free experience, again with a premium account bonus, and this was a first win of the day at ×2, and a single token, but that was for the rather difficult to obtain Gabreski medal. There's also, in addition to that, a Lambert medal here, but I'd already earned the token for that earlier in the day. Go to the personal score tab. We can see that of the class specific missions, one is complete, the capture points, and one is 4/5 complete, sectors captured, but destroying with defending. Well, I wasn't doing any defending whatsoever in that battle, so that's another reason for just the 3 chevrons. And also the fairly low personal points score, 9,620. But I was active, as you can see, from 4 sectors captured. 10 aerial targets destroyed, exactly the number you need for a Gabreski's. 3,068 damage to aerial targets, just the 4 critical hits. Not really surprising considering these are 50 cal machine guns. Capture points 530. Again, no surprises here, just 40 for defending and 490 for attacking. 7 ground targets destroyed, again exactly the number needed for Gabreski's. The other 2 conditions being that you have to do this in a single sortie and you have to win the battle. Damage to ground targets 21,111. Look on the team score tab, we can see that was second place by personal points, equal first place by chevrons. That would have been on both teams, and good efforts from everybody here. I think everybody can be quite satisfied. The Swift, that can be a difficult and tricky aircraft. The MEP 1092, good guns, but not a patch on the tier 10. So pretty good there. And the F7U can be powerful in the right game, and in the wrong game can be a right handful. So a good win and a Gabreski medal. And that brings me to the end of this look at the F-84F Thunderstreak. And the entirety of this video has been looked at through the lens of how does it stack up against the other multi-roles at tier 10. But the elephant in the room is, how does it really stack up against the bombers at tier 10, the Su-10, and particularly the pestilence that is the F-131? Well, the short answer is, it doesn't. Pretty much you're not going to be able to take those aircraft out. You wouldn't even try in most circumstances. And if you're in a battle with the F-131s, pretty much like most other tier 9 and 10 aircraft, you're reduced to a supporting role. It's just the way the game is at the moment, and one hopes that the World of Warplanes team will one day fix that. So you would play this aircraft strictly for fun, try and maximise its potential as a ground attacker, and also select the right targets, fighters that aren't paying attention, other multi-roles, air defence aircraft, in order to have the best impact that you can on a battle. And if you do that, you can still have a lot of fun. Well, I hope you found that useful, and that if you did, you'll come and see my future content. But until then, this is the Noble Q, signing out.